Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you, Rich. Stefan, nice to meet you, Sean.
Hi there, Peter.
Stefan, nice to meet you, Peter. Stefan, very nice to meet you, Sean. Nice to meet you.
Hi there.
Food. Fresh food. Everyone needs it. It's the one thing that puts us all on the same playing field. Whether it be the local residents of Kitimat who are eating it, the individuals who are working at the LNG camps that are also eating it, or the First Nations people of Kitimat who could be providing it for them. Hi, my name is Stefan. With me today, my business partners, Laura and Shabam. And today, we're here to talk to you about Green for Clean, where we will be getting First Nations individuals, and we will be going into their land, creating a greenhouse, and then allowing them to sell their food to individuals, the local residents of Kitimat, and hopefully in the future, to the individuals that are working at the LNG camps. So what we are asking for is $1.7 million for 40% equity within our company and expect an annual return of 40%. Essentially, what we want to do is to go into the First Nations land, install our greenhouse, and then hire the First Nations individuals to run and operate the greenhouse, at which point, once our harvest is complete, then ship that fresh produce to local retailers. As it stands right now, it's very difficult to get fresh, clean produce into local retailers in such a difficult place, especially once you get into the harsher months of winter. And we hope to provide this clean produce to them all through the year. Now, before we advance, I would like to just make it absolutely clear that at this time we are focusing on selling straight to the retailers. However, after a test trial of about 2 years, if this goes well, we are hoping to then implement this very same model, except for expand it and then put it into and then sell our fresh produce instead of going to the retailers, to the individuals, to the camps, selling them to the LNG camps. So providing them with the fresh produce that they need, and as the industry goes, so will we. So as you can see here, the greenhouses will be self-sustainable. We have solar panels, making them very clean, and a great sustainable way to get fresh produce to the individuals throughout the entire year. So here's just a sample of what inside of a greenhouse is going to look like. We'll have all sorts of fresh vegetables, and that will be layered to maximize space and efficiency within these greenhouses. I'm going to pass it on to Laura now to speak a little bit more to your role and what you'll be doing for our company.
Thank you, Stefan. So before you get excited about the $1.7 million, we'd like to talk to you about what your role will be in this investment, not just financially. So LNG relations are a huge and also sensitive topic in BC right now, especially northwestern BC. We know that your expertise in this area would really help us in navigate those waters. As well, your logistical consulting, whether that be political, legal, business management, those are areas that we would need your business acumen to help us take our Green for Clean to the next level to provide this fresh produce to Kitimat and the surrounding areas. And again, First Nations relations. This is a huge topic, again, with some sensitivities, and this is important not only for business but culturally. We need the understanding more so than what we already have to be able to invite these employees to work for us and help them establish a network to be selling this produce. So why us though? Myself, I'm in marketing and sales, but I also understand the impact growing up in a small business in a small town myself that it can have on the community. So this is very important to me. Shabam is our financial manager. However, he also knows that financials are not just monetary, they can impact the community in huge ways. Stefan is our operations manager, but he also understands that with important business development relationships, this can build a simple idea such as a greenhouse with fresh produce and how it can turn the community into something very special. So the stakeholder benefit that you'll be getting from this. First Nations will be getting job creation, which is huge. And community relations. There are still tensions between the surrounding communities of First Nations, and we wanted to build, just even if it's a small bridge, to build a gap between these relationships. The LNG camps will be giving local support to the communities where they operate within, as well as establishing local vendors that would be reliable for them to provide their employees with food. And the environment. We want to reduce our carbon footprint. As Stefan mentioned, it's very hard to get fresh produce into the isolated area of northwestern BC, especially in the harsher months when you have to go so far to get it, you're shipping it, trucking it in, and in and of itself, that makes the carbon footprint huge, and we know that this is going to reduce that. So Shabam, is going to talk to you about our revenue streams with Green for Clean.
Thank you, Laura. So as previously mentioned, we want to generate revenue by selling these products to retailers operating in the area itself. But depending on how the project goes, we want to expand it beyond that and sell it to LNG work camps. Again, these are camps that employ about 5,000 people. They require this fresh produce, and it does cost them quite a bit to transport this produce from different cities into their camps. By being able to plant them in the local city itself, we can reduce this cost and make it sustainable for them to buy better, greener, and cleaner vegetables and produce. So we do realize that this project requires a bit of investment, especially in terms of building greenhouses. However, it does guarantee cash flows. As previously mentioned, produce and food is something that people need, and we do realize that just because it costs a lot to transport these goods into areas like Kitimat, we can be at par with other forms of producing vegetables and capture a huge market share. So looking at the first year itself, you're looking at about a $50,000 loss. Again, this is because there's a lot of money going into these greenhouses. Every greenhouse is expected to cost about $200,000, but due to the high capital input, it does reduce the number of people we need to employ because it does have a lot of technology that can help us improve our production. However, by the end of year 5, we are looking at about $3 billion in net earnings. Again, this is something we can sustain just because greenhouses will continue to produce food, and it's something that the market will continue to demand. As previously mentioned, we are not just about building a business that can generate money, but it's also about building a business that can give back to the community. So looking at the impact we can have, we will help build the community itself by providing them with clean food. We will employ local people and First Nation people and give them this business opportunity. And lastly, we'll provide the LNG industry with the means of getting clean food at a pretty cheap cost.
How many, just in terms of job creation, what you mentioned job creation before, how many people are we talking about employing per greenhouse? What are your thoughts there?
Per greenhouse, we're probably looking at one person, especially in the initial years. As previously discussed, we ourselves will be able to provide a lot of our time towards planting these things, and there's a lot of technology. However, as we expand into future years, and we start going into new industries like providing food to these work camps, we will be employing a lot more people, and we want to make sure that these people come from First Nation communities itself.
The financials are too small to see here. Could you jump to that for a second? I'm just curious how much, what sales equals $3 million in revenues of peas and beans, because that's a lot of peas and beans. And then I also just wanted to see what kind of a growth in job creation you're actually talking about. So.
Okay. We do not have numbers that rotate around job creation directly.
But we should see a salary increase, right?
Yes. So just going to look at the financials itself. So it is very hard to read, but I can take you over it myself.
That'd be great.
Every household spends about $100 per week on food. There's about 25,000 households in Kitimat region itself. These people will be our biggest means of generating revenue. They're spending about $5,000 or more on produce every year. By capturing up to a 35% market share by year 5, which we believe is very easy because we're very competitive with other producers, we will be generating about $10 million in revenue. Looking at salary itself, labor will be contributing to about $1.6 million in this. It is also one of the biggest expenses we have. $1.6 million means employing about 18 to 19 people who are really well paid. They know how to service these technologies and also contribute to producing our goods. Does that answer your question?
It does. I'm still not sure. So is that the only products you're growing? Is the stuff you were showing us in the slide previously, or is there other? Because I'm struggling to think you're going to get 5,000 per household for lettuce, peas, beans. What was the other ones? Kale and spinach.
Okay, that is what we plan to start off with. I can pass on to Stefan to talk more about the produce we will be producing.
And when you're doing that, what's the yields of the produce?
The way we look at it is every greenhouse will produce enough food to feed about 100 households. Again, these are relatively large
Over
greenhouses.
what time frame?
In terms of time frames, we're looking at about a month for every produce. Again, due to the technology we have, we can produce quite a bit. But these will be produced on
your
a
crop
rotation.
is 100 households every month.
So what we plan to do with that is plant our crops in cycles so that we are able to get the best coverage throughout the year. So typically right now, a garden crop can be planted April, May, and you can be harvesting July, August, September. And so by staggering this throughout the year, we'll be able to have a sustainable growth, especially considering when we expand into more greenhouses as well.
So you said the cost per greenhouse you had at $200,000.
Yes.
And the size of these greenhouses is what?
We don't have the specific numbers in the size itself, but we are in discussions with different producers in China who produce them at a very low cost. But as for what we heard from them, these are able to produce enough products to feed about 100 households.
Okay. You also mentioned, I think you're planning to use solar power. Is Kitimat not a very foggy, cloudy place?
They won't be solely sustained by solar power.
Okay.
It will be in a supplement to the original power. However, we should understand that this will take back on the electricity.
LNG might be
There's,
an
I was going to say, there's a
option.
lot of natural.
Well,
There might be
it's-
some LNG
it's
there, you might want to think about
green.
using that. How many households each year?
Again, that varies by every year. So the first year itself,
Yeah.
we're looking at capturing about 5% of the market.
Yeah.
But by the end of year 5, we're looking at capturing about 35% of the market.
And what were those numbers again? Sorry, if you don't mind. Just
Sorry,
trying to jump around, but.
it's all right.
Okay,
So
so
we're
you're saying 300 households, so that's 3 greenhouses, 600 households is 6, is that a fair? So by the year 5, you're gonna have
By the end of year
21
five.
greenhouses?
Yes, so 21 greenhouses. These are feeding about 21,000 households off 4.
Of course, adding on to that as well, not only will the job creation be going towards sustaining these greenhouses, but as you can see, there is quite a bit of greenhouse production going on and an installation of the greenhouses, of which we will be able to offer these temporary creation jobs as well.
You mentioned $100 per week for a family for food. That's not just vegetables. That includes dairy, meat, everything else, right?
Well, of course, when just to clarify what Shaban was saying, when we were saying $100 worth of food, we were talking about vegetables. Usually it varies to around $200 to $300 in food per week. I know my family personally, that's approximately what we spend.
Are there
I have a practical question there. I don't see on your list of costs land. And I know from a lot of the reserves up in the north, well, in British Columbia, reserves actually account for 1/3 of 1% of BC's total land mass. So First Nations actually have very small portions of land, and most of them actually don't actually own it. The Crown owns the lands. And I'm just wondering how you would factor in this 21 greenhouses over time is quite a footprint for you. And not only the footprint, but the energy needs, and how would you see handling that part? And obviously that would factor that into the cost.
So one of the factors within that is that we like to tier the greenhouses so that we can grow vertically as opposed to outwards, so we save space in that regards. As well as one of our exit strategies, which Stephanie should talk about later, is that we'd like to create these to be self-sustainable. So we'd like to be able to have these using complete operation by the First Nations people themselves, so the revenue generated from that can purchase these back.
Okay. So you actually anticipate selling these and having them completely run independent of your business at some point potentially as well?
Yes, so what we want to do is create the most positive community impact that we can by, again, creating that positive cycle of the LNG community, the First Nations community, and the local communities being able to be self-sustainable within themselves with these greenhouses in that one small area.
So what would that do your bottom line? Do you figure you'd take kind of a royalty from it or something once you sold it off for the idea originally? Or it's just they're just buying it back and then you move on to building another one somewhere else? Or?
We would like them to have complete operations and ownership of it so that we can continue on with that, because we do know that, again, fresh produce is in demand continually throughout the year, and so that it's not going to hurt us physically, and again, that positive community impact in such an isolated area is really what we're looking for.
factor any risks with regards to assessing the land and approval process of the First Nation communities?
So while evaluating those risks, we do know that there are a number of legal ramifications for land, and that is again what we are looking for your opinion and guidance for in that area. We personally don't have that. We're looking for you to help us navigate those areas.
Goes to the greenhouse, the actual construction of it. Have you factored in the capital costs of boilers as a second option if the solar power isn't feasible depending on location?
Unfortunately, that is something we've not done at this time. But again, for you, we don't just want your investment, we also want your expertise. And ideas like those will be able to make these greenhouses more sustainable and reduce the carbon footprint. And I think that's where your expertise will help us the most.
Have you thought about equity partnerships with First Nations? Is that something you'd be interested in?
That's something we'll be definitely interested in, but our basic idea was to get this business model proven, get it to work, and once that has been done, then we can look at equity partnership or potential sale to First Nation communities itself, to make sure they can continue to have that employment that we offer them while creating a good impact in the community itself.
To Patrick's point, the issue about the land is that in order to do this, you would probably require Crown land in First Nations territory that would require their consent. But that's the deal that you would need to create between the Crown, First Nations, and yourself.
Of course. We understand that with this, this is a highly ambitious project in which we're hoping to foster these relationships between the First Nations people. And so moving forward, we hope to communicate the benefits of these greenhouses. And upon doing so, we are very confident that the First Nations people will be on our side in this point and be very lenient with this regard, once they see the benefit that we'll be creating for their communities.
What was the rationale for the jump between year 2 and 3, going 600 to 1,500 households, so 6 to 15 greenhouses, and then slowing down again just to 300, and another 3 greenhouses a year after that?
Looking at year 3 itself, we realized we will be making enough money to be able to make that investment into these greenhouses. Again, as previously mentioned, the product we will produce will cost about as much as our competitors will, the traditional meat. However, in the initial phases, our capacity to build more greenhouses will be the biggest hurdle. However, going into the future years, our growth will definitely slow down because if there is a premium, there's only a selected number of people who would want to go with that healthier product, which will ultimately slow our growth down.
Sorry, a follow-up to one of my fellow judges. In considering equity with a First Nations partner is, consider equity possible to have tax advantages in regards to having that kind of partnership?
That is certainly something that we've looked forward to. However, we wanted to be very conservative in our estimates, and so we didn't consider it as a for sure. However, that is definitely something we're going to be looking forward to upon the start of the project.
I think you have an interesting idea here, for sure. What I'd be interested to know is what your unit price is compared to importing a head of lettuce that's grown in, somewhere else. Have you done that comparison? Do you know what your cost per unit is?
We do not have the specific numbers itself. Again, something we did realize is that production of these things does not happen in Kitimat and around surrounding regions itself. The transportation adds up to about 10 to 20% of the cost. Again, producing by greenhouse does cost a bit more, but since there is low transportation cost, we come to power. We do not have the finalized numbers yet, again, but in future years or by working with you, that's something we can watch with.
Just as an example for that, a small bunch of kale can go for about $5, and that's maybe 4 leaves of it, which really, if you make smoothies with it, that gets you 2. If you make anything else with it, a salad, that gets you maybe 1 for a family. So that's quite expensive. And with cherry tomatoes, you can buy a small container for, again, $5, which is very pricey, and they're all imported. So we know that we could meet those costs, and then they would be fresh, they would be tastier, they'd have more nutrients. And so the benefits, aside from the cost, are going to outweigh basically the cost of what the greenhouse is going to be.
I think what's nice about this is that the training that's involved to actually do the labor on this is relatively low. So you can have access to a significant labor pool. So that's really interesting as well.
That's definitely something we considered. but we wanted to make the most impact possible. And we thought with job creation, we don't want to have them to have to go through years of training. So that is definitely a good point.
The community fund there, it's a pretty hefty amount of money over the 5 years. How do you foresee that being spent, and who's in charge of it, and how it's being doled out, for example, and used in the community?
So I'll let Siobhan talk about the financial aspect of that, but in regards to the community, we know right now there is a severe lack of education, especially for First Nations people, so we really like that to be one of the focuses. As well as Premier Christy Clark wants to focus on creating sustainable jobs for children, especially in this area, especially focusing on the LNG industry. So we know that that was our main goal with the 5%, but Siobhan can talk more about the numbers.
Okay, we do realize that it is a substantial amount of money, but as previously mentioned, we want to go beyond just making money for ourselves, for investors. We also want to have a social impact on these communities. Now, carrying on by our expansion plans, again, a lot of these have already been touched on, so we do plan to expand to 6 greenhouses by year 3, as seen in our financials. And by the end of year 5, we're looking at over 20 greenhouses. Again, this is when we will start to consider sale or expanding into new territories, like selling to these wood counters. I'll pass on to Laura to talk a little bit about marketing.
So we don't have a fancy marketing plan for this one. This is strictly about relationships. This is going to be going into the community, leveraging our networks as well as yours. So that essentially encompasses our marketing. We really want to build those relationships, foster those, and keep that community cohesive. So Stefan will take us over to the conclusion.
Thank you, Laura. Once again, we're asking for $1.7 million for 40% equity in our company, an expected annual return of 40%. What's that money getting you? It's getting you change. It's getting you an impact on the community that is both sustainable and able to grow. Not only does this business model work for the Kitimat region, but it is an easily replicated model which we can scale up to a national scale in anywhere that they have problems getting produce. Now, I'm talking about the northern regions of both Alberta and Saskatchewan, who I'm sure face very, very similar problems. So when you're investing in our business, not only are you investing in a good return, you're investing in the First Nations people, you're investing in strong community relations for British Columbia, and you are investing in the future of LNG. Thank you very much for your time today. If there are any further questions, we'd be happy to answer them at our next meeting.
So if everyone could exit through the rear door, that would be much appreciated.